All right, Kerry. So I want to start with why do you think lawyers sound so like stiff and robotic on camera?
Have you met lawyers?
I have as one. Yes,
No,
yes.
no, it's not a phenomena that's unique to those that are in the law practice. I see it across a lot of my clients, really. But part of the reason is that they live in the language of their expertise, which makes sense. I mean,
Sure.
they've gone to school, they've practiced for a number of years, and they are used to speaking in high stakes environments where the language is formal and perhaps even a little bit stiff. That same mindset goes to communicating on camera, and that doesn't work generally as well on camera. Camera is really about having a conversation with your viewer and making sure that your viewer understands your viewer, your ideal client, right? Let's assume that's who the viewer is, doesn't understand the language of your expertise. And
Sure.
so it's very easy to fall into that. I need to be formal. I need to be buttoned up. That's what I'm used to when I speak. And again, it just doesn't translate so well on the camera.
Are there any easy tricks? Because something I always like, not always, sometimes before an episode, and I didn't have to do this with you because you're a pro, but sometimes I'll have to tell someone that I'm concerned about that
Yeah.
might be a little too stiff. I'll just remind them that this is a conversation, and I'll tell them about like don't have the podcast voice because sometimes you have like the podcast voice where
Oh, yeah.
they're like you know what I'm talking about. Like, is there
The
any?
newscaster voice. I used to
Yes,
have that voice.
it's exactly nailed it. Yes. Are there any tricks to like to get them to not do that? Because
Yeah.
sometimes you'll tell them and they still will just be in that voice.
It's almost like it's just a trap that you fall into that because you feel comfortable and you feel like you've put on a bit of armor
Yeah.
and that's how you deliver. I always advise people, and you sort of alluded to this, that when you're talking to the camera, you're always talking to an audience of one, and that person, whoever it is that you're talking to, whether it's a friend or it's an ideal client that you know and you like talking to, imagine that that's the person you're having the conversation with. It's not perfect and it takes practice. I think a big part of it as well is that there is a sense of nerves. It's an artificial environment. I mean, if you look where we are right now, we're surrounded by lights and there's microphones and I'm being interviewed by a host and there's all these cameras. And I know you can't see all of them from your vantage point, but it's an artificial environment. And that creates that sense of um, formality, I
Yeah.
guess. And because of that artifice, it's easy to fall into putting on that armor, putting on that persona, if you will. When I work with people, aside from advising them to always talk to one person, one of the things is that, let's say they're creating a video, I will say, before you actually start speaking, create a little preamble in your mind. So one of the things, and I'll use a lot of analogies because I used to work in
Yeah.
the news business and on air as an anchor and a reporter. And one of the things that I used to do when I was reading a story, maybe for the 10th time that day, and I had to make it sound exciting, was I would start with "get this," right? In the lawyer's case, in my mind, I didn't say that on air. In the lawyer's case, maybe it is, "Hey Brian," or hey Chris, or whatever, whoever it is that you're talking to, create that preamble and
So
then
you're
start
having
to
this
talk.
dialogue in your head, like as but
I have all
beforehand.
sorts of dialogues in my
Well, I'm
head.
sure. I'm sure some of them we might want to keep secret,
Yes.
but so you're starting that like you're kind of like thinking about who that person is and like
Yeah.
starting that conversation.
Yeah. And one of the things that if that is, and that can be a challenge, one of the things that I will tell my clients to do is actually verbalize that, like, "Hey Chris, this new thing happened with blah 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 XYZ, and here's what it means, for ABC." And then we'll just edit out the "Hey Chris." But
Sure.
it gets them into that conversational flow, and then the rest of the communication or the message or whatever it is tends to follow suit.
What a cool idea. I really
Yeah.
like that idea. Like, so it's my understanding that you used to be nervous on camera. Is that
Oh
right?
my God.
So like one of the things I tell my clients is whenever they're doing a depo or
Yeah.
something is like just certain breathing techniques, like breathe through your nose, blow out through a straw, kind of a thing to kind of
Yeah.
lower the heart rate. Is there anything like that that you do before you go on camera?
I am not nervous anymore. I have done hours and hours of live TV. I've made all the mistakes.
Yeah.
There's no mistakes left for me to make. I make them daily, but I've experienced them all. When I first started, though, you're right. It was a wildly different story. I was terrible and I was terrified. It's not a good combination,
Sure.
especially when your debut on TV is live news coverage. There's a couple of things that I used to do. So number one, I would keep a really cold bottle of water next to me, and in fact, it would be ice. I would keep it underneath the desk so nobody could see it. But if I felt myself getting flush, or if I felt myself getting a little sweaty, if I was glowing, I would hold that bottle of water in my hand under the desk. There's also a breathing technique called the 4-7-8. I don't know if you may have heard of that, but
No, I know box breathing. I don't know 4-7-8.
So box breathing is breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, right? It's sort of like a box. 4-7-8 is you breathe in for 4, you hold for 7, and you exhale for 8. The key is to exhale more than you're inhaling, because that's what dials down your nervous system. So 4-7-8 is a great technique if you find yourself in, whether it is a virtual deposition or you're nervous on camera, you're creating video or whatever it is. It's a great way to sort of regulate your nervous system and dial things down a little bit. Yeah.
So we were, Remy and I were talking a while ago just about like what it used to be like years ago when we started the podcast. People they would start talking, they would misstate something and they say, "Oh, I want to restate that."
Yeah.
And how that's kind of gone away. It's like it's not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming when you're on live air, you can't do that, obviously. Like you're gonna make mistakes. So how do you get through those mistakes without it looking too bad?
No, well, occasionally I looked really bad.
part of the
It's
job.
part of the learning process.
That's right.
It's sink or swim. One of the greatest things about live TV, and that's where I learned how to do all of this stuff, is that no matter what comes your way, the show must go on.
Sure.
You've got to dig your way out of it. And so whether I had a coughing fit or my co-anchor had to leave the set or there was breaking news and I didn't have anything but 3 words of information that I had to fill, 20 minutes with. In fact, interestingly enough, one time there was a fire drill at a station that I worked at rather, and I was out on the scene at a reporting, and the station had to evacuate, and they're like, "Kerry, can you fill?" So I had to just stand outside and talk for like 25 minutes. I started talking to people around me. My point in relaying that story is that because it's live TV, you do have to dig your way out of whatever is in front of you. And that's why live video is one of the best ways to get really good on camera really quickly. It's terrifying for most people. Sure. But the key to moving through it is to recognize that you will absolutely come out on the other side. It probably won't be pretty when you're first learning how to do it, and that's perfectly fine. Address what went wrong. In news language, we'd say, if we messed up when we said, of course, I can't think of an example now. We'd say, something rather, right? I correct the mistake and move on. So acknowledge it, correct it. Don't make a big deal of it and move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you even address it? You just kind of just move on.
I mean, if I said something really wrong, which I have on occasion accidentally, I may have let a curse word slip accidentally here or there. Salt Lake City, Can we curse on this podcast?
Yes, you can.
I said Salt Lake Shitty.
That's although Salt Lake City is very beautiful. It is
very
beautiful.
I lived there for 5 years. I adored it. But in a case of that, something like that, absolutely, I apologized, but then I moved on. The more you stumble over it, the bigger deal you make of it, and the more people's attention is drawn to it.
It's like if you have a spot on your shirt from lunch.
Oh yeah.
No one notices it until you say, "Hey, I got a spot on my shirt."
100%.
Now everyone notices because you said something.
That's all they notice.
Right. Yeah.